Hey everyone, and welcome. Get ready because we're diving into a seriously cool celestial event happening on January 13th, 2025.
Oh, yeah, this one's special.
A full moon is going to be sharing the sky with Mars.
It's going to be pretty spectacular.
We've got an article here titled, "Don't Miss Mars and the Wolf Moon Align in Epic Sky Spectacle." And in this deep dive, we're going to break it all down for you.
We'll cover when and where to see it, the cultural stories behind it all.
Because it's not just about looking up, it's about understanding what we're seeing.
Right, exactly. So first things first, this full moon and Mars conjunction, it's going to be visible pretty much globally.
So no matter where you are in the world on January 13th, 2025, just look up.
You'll be able to witness this cosmic event.
Now, you said conjunction. What does that mean exactly?
Well, in simple terms, it means that from our perspective on Earth, the moon and Mars are going to appear super close together in the sky, like two dancers meeting on a cosmic stage.
I love that. So it's not just any full moon, it's the wolf moon.
Yeah.
I've got to ask, where did that name come from?
Well, it comes from Native American traditions, and it really captures the essence of winter.
How so?
Well, imagine the deep snow of winter and wolves howling in the distance.
Oh, wow.
It's a pretty powerful image, right?
It is. Makes you wonder if other cultures have their own names for the January full moon, too.
Oh, absolutely. For instance, in Europe, you might hear it called the ice moon or the old moon, even the moon after Yule.
The moon after Yule. Okay, now I'm really curious. What's Yule?
Yule was this ancient pre-Christian festival celebrated in Europe around the time of the winter solstice.
So we're talking feasts, bonfires.
Exactly. Celebrations of the returning light. A pretty big deal. And sometimes the celebration would last for 12 days.
Wow. So whether it's wolves howling or bonfires blazing, this full moon really seems connected to winter across cultures. And get this wolf moon happens to coincide with the start of something called the Prayag Kumbh Mela in India.
That's right, the Kumbh Mela. It's a huge Hindu pilgrimage held every 12 years. It rotates between 4 sacred cities in India.
And it's massive. We're talking hundreds of millions of pilgrims converging at this point, where 3 rivers meet.
The Ganges, the Yamuna, and the mythical Sarasvati.
Exact.
It's a sight to behold.
And this year, it's all happening under the wolf moon.
You know, the next Kumbh Mela after this one will be in Nashik in 2027, then Ujjain in 2028, and Haridwar in 2033.
Wow. Okay, so we've got Native American, European, and now Hindu traditions all connected to this one full moon. It's really amazing how these celestial events can bring people together from all these different backgrounds.
It's true. And the connections don't stop there. For example, in Sri Lanka, Buddhists celebrate Duruthu Poya, which commemorates Buddha's first visit to the country.
It's like the whole world is looking up at the same sky, finding their own meanings, their own stories. But everyone's connected by this shared experience.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. The night sky's like this universal canvas.
Reflecting all of humanity's different beliefs and traditions. Speaking of different cultural perspectives, we can't forget the Chinese calendar. This full moon happens right in the middle of the 12th month of the year of the rabbit.
And just a couple weeks later, the new moon on January 29th marks the beginning of the year of the snake.
So much is happening. And to top it off, this full moon also falls during the Islamic month of Rajab, which is one of the 4 sacred months when warfare is forbidden.
Really adds another layer of cultural and historical significance to this full moon, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about all the cultural connections, but now let's talk about actually viewing this event. Besides the moon and Mars, what else can we expect to see up there?
Well, get ready for a whole planetary lineup. Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, even Uranus, they'll all be visible in the night sky.
Whoa, a full planetary lineup. That's awesome. For someone just starting out with stargazing, which planets are going to be the easiest to spot?
Venus is going to be the real star of the show.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be the brightest thing in the sky after the moon, followed by Jupiter. You really can't miss him.
Awesome. Now, for those of us lucky enough to have a telescope, what are some cool details we should be looking for?
With a telescope, you might be able to catch Venus going through its phases, just like our moon does.
Really?
It's pretty cool to see. You can also check out Jupiter's 4 largest moons, Ganymede, Callisto, Europa, and Io.
Oh, wow.
They'll be dancing around Jupiter as they orbit the giant planet. And of course, there's always the rings of Saturn.
Okay, I'm already getting excited to bundle up and take my telescope out. Are there any tips for making the most of planet watching?
Here's a helpful tip. These planets are going to appear to move westward around Polaris, the North Star, throughout the lunar cycle. So the earlier you can get out there in the evening, the better the view you'll have.
Got it. Early bird catches the planets. Now, I've heard there might be a comet making an appearance around this time.
Ah, yes. Comet C 2024 G3, also known as ATLAS, is expected to pass near the Sun on January 13th. Now, comets can be a little unpredictable.
Yeah, how so?
This one might break up because of the intense heat and gravitational forces as it gets close to the Sun.
Oh, no. So we might not actually get to see it.
There's a chance, yeah. But it could also put on a spectacular show.
Fingers crossed. If we want to try our luck, where should we look?
Well, if you're an experienced sky watcher, you can try looking about 5 degrees to the upper right of the Sun on the evening of January 12th before it sets. You might catch a glimpse. And there's a slight chance you might even see it after sunset if you have a clear view of the west-southwestern horizon. But remember, never look directly at the Sun. Safety first.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got planets, a possible comet. What about meteor showers? Anything exciting happening there?
There are a couple of minor meteor showers, the Gamma Ursae Minorids and the Alpha Centaurids. Unfortunately, the full moon's light is going to wash out the Gamma Ursae Minorids.
Oh, too bad.
But the Alpha Centaurids, those are interesting. They're only visible from the southern hemisphere.
Oh.
They peak around February 8th, and they can be really unpredictable. You might see an average of 6 meteors per hour, but there have been times when they've produced bursts of 20 to 30 per hour.
Wow. Talk about a show. Okay, before we get into the specific dates and times for everything, what stood out to you the most about this wolf moon?
For me, it's the incredible tapestry of cultural connections. This one celestial event holds such deep meaning for so many different cultures around the world.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that for centuries, people from all walks of life have looked up at this same moon and found meaning and connection.
And now we get to do the same.
Exactly. It's really humbling.
It shows how connected we all are, under the same sky.
Well said. All right, let's get into the celestial calendar. We'll map out what to look for each night leading up to this extraordinary wolf moon and beyond.
That's good.
Get ready for a cosmic adventure.
Okay, so we've talked about all the exciting events happening around this wolf moon, but let's get practical. How do we actually find these celestial wonders in the night sky?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm ready to grab my calendar and start planning some prime stargazing nights.
Perfect. First things first, mark January 7th, Tuesday. That's when the moon will be at perigee.
Perigee, that means.
Its closest point to Earth in its orbit.
Right. So will we be seeing a supermoon then?
Not quite a supermoon, but it will appear a bit bigger than usual. It's a great night to just, appreciate the moon.
Awesome. I'll definitely be checking it out. What's next?
Fast forward to Thursday evening, January 9th. The waxing gibbous moon will be hanging out near the Pleiades star cluster.
Oh, the Pleiades. I love spotting that cluster. It's so beautiful, like a little jewel box.
It is, also known as the Seven Sisters. It's one of the closest star clusters to Earth, actually. With the moon's brightness that night, you probably need binoculars to get a good view.
Okay, good to know.
So as evening twilight fades, around 6:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, look for the Pleiades about 1 degree to the lower left of the moon. Then over the next few hours, watch as the moon actually passes in front of the Pleiades, blocking some of the stars from view. By midnight, they'll reappear from below the moon.
Wow, a celestial hide and seek. I'm adding that to my must-see list. Anything else happening on the 9th?
Actually, yes. Venus reaches its greatest angular separation from the Sun as seen from Earth. It's called greatest elongation.
Okay, greatest elongation. Can you help me visualize that?
Imagine drawing a line from the Sun to Earth and then out to Venus. Greatest elongation is when that line forms the largest angle possible. So basically, Venus is as far from the Sun in our sky as it can be, making it a great time to observe the planet.
So mark the 9th for Venus watching.
Got it.
What about Friday the 10th?
On Friday evening, look out for a close encounter between the waxing gibbous moon and Jupiter. As twilight ends, around 6:08 p.m. Eastern Time, Jupiter will be about 5 degrees to the lower right of the moon. And as the night goes on, Jupiter will appear closer to the moon, right below it.
A moon-Jupiter pairing. I can't wait. Okay, moving on to Sunday, January 12th. What's happening then?
Sunday afternoon, there's a slight chance to spot that sun-grazing comet C 2024 G3 ATLAS near the setting sun. I do want to emphasize, though, it's a long shot.
You mentioned earlier that sun-grazing comets can break apart. How likely is that?
Well, it's really hard to say for sure. It depends on the comet's composition and how close it gets to the sun. Sometimes they just fizzle out completely. Other times, they put on an incredible show.
Okay, so if we want to try and see it, where should we be looking?
If you have clear skies and a safe viewing method, you can try looking about 5 degrees to the upper right of the sun in the late afternoon. And if you have a clear view to the west-southwestern horizon, there's a chance you might spot it after sunset before it sets below the horizon. But again, safety first. Never look directly at the sun.
Got it. Safety first. Always. Okay, now we're getting close to the main event, the full wolf moon on Monday, January 13th. What can we expect to see that morning?
Monday morning will be your last chance to see Mercury for a little while before it disappears from view. It'll be rising just before morning twilight begins. But don't worry, it'll be back in the evenings. Get ready for a pretty amazing sight. As twilight ends, around 6:11 p.m. Eastern Time, the full moon will be rising in the east-northeastern sky, and Mars, shining bright red, will be about 2 degrees to the lower left of the moon. To make things even more spectacular, the bright star Pollux will be 3 degrees to the upper left. It'll be a stunning celestial triangle.
Wow. Doesn't the moon actually pass in front of Mars, too?
Yes. It's called an occultation, and it'll be visible from most of the continental U.S., as well as parts of Africa, Canada, and Mexico.
So we'll actually see Mars disappear behind the moon. I've never seen an occultation. What are the timings for that?
Well, for viewers in Washington, D.C., Mars will start disappearing behind the moon at around 9:16 p.m. Then it'll reappear from behind the other side of the moon around 10:31 p.m. The exact times will vary slightly depending on where you are, so it's always best to check your local astronomy resources for precise timings.
Okay, will do. And what about early Tuesday morning after the occultation?
As the moon reaches its highest point, which is around 12:37 a.m., Mars will be about 1 degree to the right of the moon, and Pollux will be 5 degrees to the upper right.
So they'll still be close enough to make a beautiful grouping. Wow, that entire night is just packed with celestial action.
It really is. But the excitement's not over yet. There's still Mars reaching opposition, a close encounter between Venus and Saturn, and even a few more planetary pairings to look forward to in the coming days.
I think we need to give our listeners a chance to absorb all this before we move on.
Good point. We'll continue our cosmic journey in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm still kind of reeling from all those celestial events.
There's a lot to take in.
Ready to keep exploring.
Absolutely. The cosmic journey continues over the next few weeks.
Let's fast forward to Wednesday, January 15th. You mentioned Mars reaching opposition. Can you remind me what that is again?
Sure. Opposition is when Mars appears directly opposite the sun in our sky.
Okay.
With Earth right in the middle. It's like Mars is putting on its best show, shining its brightest.
So that's the best time to observe Mars then?
Exactly. During opposition, Mars is at its closest and brightest for the entire year.
Awesome.
On Wednesday, as evening twilight ends, around 6:13 p.m. Eastern Time, you'll find Mars shining brightly about 14 degrees above the east-northeastern horizon. It'll reach its highest point in the sky early Thursday morning, and then you can actually see it again in the west-northwestern sky as morning twilight begins.
So double the chances to catch it. Anything else happening that Wednesday night into Thursday morning?
Keep an eye out for the bright star Regulus. It'll be near the waning gibbous moon. As Regulus rises in the east-northeastern sky around 7:52 p.m. Eastern Time, it'll be below the moon. Then by early Thursday morning, around 2:16 a.m., Regulus will have moved to about 5.5 degrees to the lower left of the moon.
Regulus, the heart of Leo.
Yes.
Definitely don't want to miss that. What about Saturday, January 18th?
Saturday evening, look out for a close encounter between Venus and Saturn. In the southwestern sky, as evening twilight fades around 6:15 p.m. Eastern Time, you'll see Venus about 30 degrees above the horizon, with Saturn just 2.2 degrees to its lower left.
Venus and Saturn together. Wow. Okay, what else is happening that week?
On Monday night, January 20th, the moon will be at apogee.
Apogee.
That's the farthest point from Earth in its orbit, so it'll look a bit smaller than usual.
So the opposite of perigee.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
Tuesday morning, January 21st, we've got another bright star pairing. This time it's Spica, the brightest star in Virgo, appearing near the waning gibbous moon. They'll be rising together in the east-southeastern sky around 12:11 a.m. Eastern Time, and later that afternoon, the moon reaches its last quarter phase.
Moon and Spica rising together. That's a beautiful image. So much to see before sunrise. What should we be looking for on Wednesday, January 22nd?
Wednesday is your last chance to catch Mercury in the morning sky for a while. It'll be low on the horizon, so you'll need a clear view to the east to spot it.
Okay, I'll set my alarm early. What else is going on that week?
Look for another pairing of Mars and Pollux on the nights of January 22nd and 23rd. They'll be super close, only about 2.5 degrees apart.
Wow.
They'll be visible all night long, reaching their highest point around 11 p.m. Eastern Time.
2 nights in a row to enjoy that Mars-Pollux duo. Then on Friday, January 24th.
Friday morning brings a rendezvous between the waning crescent moon and the bright star Antares. It's the heart of Scorpius. Look for them rising in the southeastern sky around 3:54 a.m. Eastern Time.
The moon in Antares. That red star is always so striking.
It is.
Anything else going on that weekend?
On Saturday morning, January 25th, the moon will have moved to the other side of Antares. You can catch them rising together around 4:20 a.m. Eastern Time.
2 mornings in a row for the moon in Antares. Got it. What's next on the calendar?
Monday evening, January 27th, Venus reaches its highest point in the evening sky, about 31 degrees above the west-southwestern horizon as twilight ends. It'll be a great time to view Venus through a telescope because it will be showing a crescent phase.
I will definitely be breaking out my telescope that night. Then we have a new moon, right?
Yes. Wednesday morning, January 29th, brings a new moon.
Marking the start of a new lunar month.
Exactly. It also happens to be Chinese New Year,
Oh, wow.
the start of the year of the snake.
A new moon and a new year. Perfect time for new beginnings. What about the very end of January?
Friday evening, January 31st, there's a nice pairing of the waxing crescent moon and Saturn in the west-southwestern sky as twilight ends.
Nice.
Also, keep an eye out for the bright star Aldebaran. It's the eye of Taurus.
Oh, yeah.
You'll find it appearing below Jupiter. They'll be at their closest that evening, about 5 degrees apart.
So many pairings to watch. It seems like there's something new to see every night. Anything else as we head into February?
On Saturday, February 1st, there's a close encounter between the waxing crescent moon and Venus. They'll be in the west-southwestern sky as twilight ends. Later that night, the moon will be at perigee again, its closest point to Earth.
Wow, it's amazing how much is happening in the night sky. This has been such an incredible journey.
I agree. Hopefully everyone's feeling inspired to go out and experience these events firsthand.
I know I am. It's a good reminder that there's always something new to discover if we just look up.
Well said.
So everyone, go outside, find a dark spot, and let the night sky amaze you. Who knows what you might find?